What kind of programs does this school have? How are the test scores? How many kids do a classroom? Homes.com knows these are all things you ask when you're home shopping as a parent. That's why each listing on Homes.com includes extensive reports on local schools, including photos, parent reviews, test scores, student-teacher ratio, school rankings, and more. The information is from multiple trusted sources and curated by Homes.com's dedicated in-house research team. It's all so you can make the right decision for your family. Homes.com. We've done your homework.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature, whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today and make the most of your summer with All Trails.
America's favorite place to watch football is Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Catch all the biggest games at a viewing experience built for sports fans. Chill in one of their 6 pools on 3 different levels for a perfect view of their massive screen. Plenty of seating options from cozy daybeds to private, temperature-controlled cabanas. Stadium Swim. Book your spot today at circalasvegas.com.
It's time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers Webzone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
We are back. Vacation is over. Football is around the corner, and we're going to start to ramp it up here on the No Huddle Podcast. I'm Al Sacco. No Brian today. So we have another co-host, and you know that when either Brian or myself on here, we like to highlight content creators who we think are doing a great job. So I was on vacation on the beach, sipping on some beers, having a good time, and I was reading some Niners articles. And I came across one that was actually on 49ers Webzone. And I said, I really like this article. I think it's going to be a good topic to talk about on the show. So I reached out to the creator. If you're not familiar with him, you need to be to get him on the show. And he's going to co-host with me today. You may know him from his podcast, his YouTube, 49ers Camelot. He's also a media caster for the PSF app, which is Sean Salisbury's app. And he covers the Niners for 49ers Webzone as well. He is Marc Adams. Marc, thanks for being here with me.
Hey, my pleasure, Al. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's, you're one of those guys who I think if you're paying attention to Niners content, you've been doing a really good job, when you're out there. I know you got a couple shows and your articles for the Webzone are great. I'm a writer at heart. I kind of miss doing it. I do it here and there, but yeah, this is the medium now, right? We have to do podcasts. But
yeah, I remember you did one not too long ago. I remember that.
A couple, yeah. I've done a few.
Al's back.
Once in a while, I got to go back to my roots, man. You know what I mean? And especially now, if we have a guest on or whatever, I'll do an article around it. But I miss writing, and I like when we have guests. I love having players on and things like that. But I kind of when Mike Silver's on, or I geeked out when we had Peter King on the show, because just to have those old school writers on, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of my first love. And I was talking with Peter King about that too. We're writers at heart, but we kind of have to do the podcast thing. That's the medium now. But this is fun too, I guess. And this article was fun that you wrote. So what happened was Mike Clay wrote an article for ESPN where he basically did projections for each team, right? Statistically, is that kind of what you got this off of?
Yeah, he actually did. If you go to 49ers Webzone and you find the article, it's called ESPN releases its 2024 projections for the 49ers. In the second paragraph, I included a link to this PDF that Mike Clay did. And it's huge. If you haven't seen that, you need to go check it out, because he does projections for every single team, every position. And it's pretty cool. I don't agree with everything, but it's a great thing to look over. You need plenty of time because there's a ton of content.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the time he must have put into that to do projections for every single team the way that he did. It's crazy. But, it's tough as you're covering the league. It's tough to really know every single intricacy about teams. And as I was going through some of this with the 49ers, there's definitely things I don't think he knows about the 49ers. Yeah. And we'll go over some of it as you highlighted it. But the first thing that was in there, he had Brock Purdy taking a step back, at least statistically. And when I went through that, I said, well, yeah, I think, of course, Brock Purdy's going to take a step back statistically, because when you look at what Purdy did last year, so he sets the franchise mark for passing yards in the season. Mark, he had the 14th highest passer rating of all time. He
Holy
had the
cow,
8th highest yards per attempt of all time.
Wow.
He's not going to do that again this year. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
to hold him to those standards, it's probably not going to happen. Is he going to have another good statistical season? Yeah, I absolutely think so. But is he going to throw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns? Probably not. I would say more he's going to be high threes, maybe push 4, because the Niners are a running team. And I think he'll have in the high 20s in touchdown passes. Now, Clay had him at about 3,900 yards and 24 TDs. Yardage might be okay. I think the TDs are a little low. But if people are going to judge Brock Purdy statistically again this year, and go, oh, well, he didn't do what he did last year. Not many quarterbacks have ever done what he did last year statistically. So that's not really a fair thing to hold him.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I mentioned this in the article, that I think it's very possible he could have a worse season statistically and yet be a better quarterback. And that's going to be really good for the 49ers because, in that Green Bay game, he wasn't good. He needs to get better at throwing a wet football. Mm-hmm. He struggled in that game until the rain stopped. The whole team struggled against Detroit until they started clicking after halftime. But I think that if he's better in 2024, that's going to be huge for the 49ers. So hopefully they'll have great health. But yeah, that to me, the Brock Purdy taking a step back statistically is not really earth shattering.
Yeah. And there are things, obviously, as a young quarterback, he's only going to be 24 years old. He's going into his second full season. He has a young quarterback. There's things that he's learning. And for me in the playoffs, as much as he didn't play well against Green Bay in the first half against Detroit, the whole team was a mess. But the fact that he bounced back in those games, that he had the drives at the end of Green Bay, that he played really well in the second half to bring them back, he showed that he's kind of got that moxie. And even when he doesn't have his fastball, he can still get batters out, for lack of, compared to a pitcher. He doesn't have to have his best stuff all the time. He can still make throws. He can still make plays with his legs. He can find other ways to win, which is what he did in those games last year. So, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think statistics – he's going to have good statistics because he's in Shanahan's offense. But we can't hold him to 113 passer rating every year. It's ridiculous.
Right.
So the second highlight was Christian McCaffrey he had McCaffrey having another big season. I think McCaffrey as well, he's the focal point of the offense. He's the guy the offense runs through. But I think he's going to touch the ball less in not in situations where the game is close. Where I think they're going to take their foot off the gas with McCaffrey is when they're up 30-7 in week 1 against Pittsburgh, like they were last year. He's not going to touch the ball in the fourth quarter. I think this year they're going to save him from himself. Just say, Christian, you're coming out of the game. So I think his stats might be a little bit lower this year. Again, he had an all-time season last year, right? Probably can't expect him to have 2,200 all-purpose yards. And what did he have? 26 touchdowns, including the playoffs. Something ridiculous.
Yeah,
can't hold him to that standard. Again, I don't.
Right. Yeah, and how many consecutive games did he score a touchdown? He's probably not going to do that again. I don't remember that number off the top of my head, but was it like 15 or something like that? Because I think it started the season before, and so I think that he's going to have another big season. But Mike Clay has him rushing for 1,243 yards, having 527 yards receiving. And a total 12 touchdowns rushing, 4 through the air. So, that's another really good season for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think he'll get close to those numbers that Clay has. I think that's fair. I don't know if he'll be the offensive player of the year again, but again, not fair to really expect him to do something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And what other running backs are going to step up? Did they need somebody else to step up this year? Whether it's Garendo or Eli Mitchell stays healthy. Where are you on Jordan Mason? Because I feel like the fans love Jordan Mason, but his pass blocking was an issue. He didn't see the field. I think there's a chance that either Mason or Mitchell are not on the team to start the season. Yeah,
I did see somebody, and I don't remember who it was, or I'd give them credit, but somebody said that they expected Jordan Mason to be traded during the preseason or something like that. maybe around cut day or whatever. I don't know about that, but with Garindo, with the undrafted running back from Missouri, I don't know what they're going to do, but yeah, Elijah Mitchell going into his last season. So I don't think that Kyle's going to move on from him because he really trusts him.
Yeah,
the guy doesn't
they
fumble.
like Mitchell a lot.
Yeah, Kyle loves running backs that don't put the ball on the ground. So I think that he's not going to go anywhere. This is his last season, but I think Jordan Mason might be a restricted free agent after this season. So that kind of makes me think maybe they would keep him around, but I don't know. I like him. To me, when he runs like he's angry at the grass, I mean, he like thunders his way through, and I really like that. I think he's a good change of pace from you have McCaffrey and Mitchell who weave their way through really well, and then you have Mason that just pounds his way in. And so I really like him, but I don't know if they're going to stick with him or not.
Third thing that we highlighted here was Clay believes that Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are going to have similar seasons statistically. And that was interesting to me because he had Ayuk, let me see what you wrote here, with about 75 catches and 1,068 yards is where he feels Ayuk is going to be. Last year, Ayuk had 75 catches and 1,342 yards. And that was another season where his yards per catch was so high, second in the league.
Yeah. Is
he going to do that again? Might be another thing that might be unfair to ask. And Ayuk has never had a yardage season like that. In 2022, he was right about where Clay has him in terms of yardage, to get 1,075 or thereabouts. So Ayuk is yet to prove he wants to be paid like this, but he's yet to prove that he could put up those big statistical numbers year in and year out. Now he doesn't get a ton of targets, not compared to some of the other guys. But I am interested to see this year. The Niners have a lot of mouths to feed, but if they get this contract done, are they going to make Ayuk more of a focal point of the offense? Are they going to throw a little more? Is he going to be more of a true number one instead of sort of a 1A, 1B type thing? It's really interesting to me to see.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how he comes in, whether he comes in during camp or whether he comes in after camp. What's he going to look like after being, holding out for the entire offseason? We saw that Nick Bosa wasn't quite Nick Bosa. He even said as much. Deebo Samuel 2 years ago didn't come in and look the same. So is Ayuk different? Is he wired differently to where he's going to come in and be more ready than Deebo was? Or is he going to have some slow starts? We know historically that running backs that hold out often get injured early on. And so, I don't really know those numbers when it comes to receivers. If it's the same, I doubt that it is because I don't really remember hearing about that too much. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of people think that this is Deebo Samuel's last year with the 49ers. I just think that Kyle loves Deebo, and just all we have to do is look at the 3 games that they lost last season. They played those mostly without Deebo, and they struggled. So I know that he had a bad Super Bowl, but I just think that outside of Christian McCaffrey, Deebo is one of the spark plugs on the offense, and I don't know if they're going to move off of him next year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think what happens with Ayuk obviously will have a lot to do with where they're going to get Deebo, just because they can't pay everybody. But Deebo has put this team on his back numerous times. And in some of these big games, he has been the focal point. They have developed a game plan around him. But when you look at it statistically, what Clay projects here, it's not that far off of what Deebo has done. He has him at 62 catches and a little over 900 yards. And when you look at Deebo's career, other than that outlier season in 2021, where he had 77 catches and 1,405 yards, he's never had over 900 yards in the season receiving. Now, obviously, he's a dual threat with the running and what he does with carries. But yeah, last year, which I think people thought bit of a down year statistically, was the second most receiving yards he's ever had. Now he is banged up. He rarely plays all every game in the season. But his other years, he had 802 as a rookie, 391 in his second year when he was hurt, the 1405. 632 in 2022 and 892 in 2023. So other than that one season, he's really not somebody who's typically going to get 1,200, 1,300 yards receiving. But like you said, those big games, a lot of times when they will center the game plan around Deebo, and he has a lot of big moments for this team.
Yeah, when they're in a situation where they need to pick up, it's 3rd and 6, and Kyle decides to hand it to Debo, and somehow he picks up that first down. That's just crazy. I mean, what game was that? Was that the Packers in the playoffs 2 or 3 years ago that he did
so
that?
Many moments.
Yeah, he's just
together,
like he has those moments where he just comes up so big, whether it's in the postseason against Dallas or against Green Bay. And I don't know if I think if I'm making the decision, we have to move off of one of them. Who are you letting go? I think if I'm thinking purely long-term, I'm keeping Ayuk over Debo, but that's hard to say because Debo is so important to this offense.
Yeah, and I think we have to see what the offense evolves into, because Brian will make the point a lot, and I agree with him, where he thinks, Debo was more of a Jimmy Garoppolo compliment, where you don't have somebody who could really throw the ball downfield. You're dumping it off. You have a short passing game, yards after catch. Whereas Ayuk is more timing based in his routes, and he fits really well with Purdy. So I feel like long term, Ayuk is younger, obviously too. He's more durable. He's never missed a game.
Yeah.
Well, he's missed one game or something like that. He hasn't missed many games, I should say. And you could build around him for the future. The issue is if you pay him $30 million a year, and Purdy maybe $60 million a year, and Bosa $40 million a year, at some point you can't do it. Dallas is going through that right now, where they're like, we can't pay Parsons, Prescott, Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
But the Niners are going to pay Purdy, Debo, or Purdy, Ayuk, and Bosa. So it's a tough spot to be in.
I know.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
It's the most anticipated WNBA season in history.
So you know what that means.
Court is back in session with Queens of the Court, a WNBA podcast.
I'm your girl, Cheryl Swoops.
And I'm Jordan Robinson. All WNBA season long, we'll bring you interviews with star athletes, analysis on your favorite teams,
and lots of hot takes.
Order in the court.
Follow and listen to Queens of the Court, free on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, and welcome to IKEA. How can I help?
Oh, my schedule is crazy. I just want some me time.
Maybe it's time to embrace the joy of staying in. With comfortable beds, pillow and decor, mood lighting, and so much more, you can turn your bedroom into the place to be.
Oh, sounds like a dream.
We've got you. Visit us in-store or at IKEA-USA.com/sleep to create your dream bedroom today.
All right, Ricky Pearsall will outperform Juwan Jennings.
This was the first one. Like to me, the first three were not controversial at all. They weren't spicy. This was the first spicy one to suggest, because he has Ricky Pearsall at 29 catches for 385 yards and 3 touchdowns. He has Jennings at 15 catches for 196 and 1 touchdown. To say that Ricky Pearsall is going to outperform Juwan Jennings, especially after the Super Bowl that Jennings had, I realized that last year Jennings only had 19 catches for the whole season. just one touchdown, but in the playoffs, he showed that he deserves more targets. And so I would be surprised if a rookie is going to come in and outplay Juwan Jennings, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that for Jennings, he did have the big playoffs. So does he gain a larger role? Does he get a larger role here? And I don't know what they're going to do with Pearsall. I really don't.
Yeah.
Are they going to ease him in? Is he going to be a big part of the offense? Are they going to phase somebody out? It's almost like they have too many mouths to feed this year. You know what I mean? So I don't know if we've seen Kyle, especially with rookies, where he kind of takes his time with some of them. So is this going to be a redshirt year for Pearsall? It's hard for me to say right now, unless Ayuk isn't there, or he comes into camp and just completely shows out. How is he going to break the top 3?
Yeah.
I don't know if I know that he can.
You're right. I totally agree. I mean, you look at what Juwan Jennings does in the running game. Pearsall's not going to do that, especially as a rookie. I mean, Juwan's probably the best blocking wide receiver in the NFL. And Kyle, that means something to Kyle. They just gave him, this little extension. I don't think that Pearsall is going to come in and outperform Juwan Jennings, but I mean, Mike Clay thinks that he is, so we'll see.
And Mike Clay also thinks Jacob Cowing won't make an impact as a rookie. He had him with 3 catches for 38 yards. I don't think I disagree with that, just for the reasons we just said about Pearsall. How is he going to get on the field? But I do think what you'll see with Cowing, especially because how good he is downfield, I think we have more than 3 catches, but he could, every third or fourth game, he'll have a 25-yard catch or 30-yard catch. I'd put him between 5-10 catches this year, but I agree. I don't think he's going to see the field a ton, barring injuries.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that he had Jacob Cowing with 3 catches, 38 yards. He had Danny Gray, 2 catches, 19 yards, and Ronnie Bell, no catches, no yards. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But the Cowing thing, I decided to include that simply because there are so many fans that are expecting him to come in and make this huge impact. And I don't think that he will as a rookie. I kind of think, like what you said, he's going to make some splash plays here and there, but he's not going to come in and set the world on fire as a rookie.
Next thing that Clay has, he believes Isaac Guerendo is going to be the team's leading kick returner this year. I'm with the way that the kicking rules are now, the kick returns it's going to change so many games. And people are going to, I think Debo's going to be back there sometimes, but teams are going to approach this totally differently. And you're going to see games change because of the new rules with kick returns. Guerendo's really fast. I'd prefer him over Bell, but I think that's a competition to me. I can't wait to see who the Niners kick returner or returners are and how they handle this. I'm fascinated by the whole thing this season.
Yeah, he actually had Ronnie Bell as the team's top punt returner, which scares me because we saw Bell put a few balls on the ground last year. And I personally don't want to see Ronnie Bell. I like him. I like the kid. I like him as a player, but I don't like him as the 49ers leading punt returner. That makes me nervous. So I'm okay with Guerendo being the kick returner if that's the way they go. But Bell, man, I hope they find somebody different to return punts.
I'm not sure Bell is going to be on the team. I mean, if you think the receivers are top 5 with Cowing and you keep the 6, I'd rather keep it like Conley as opposed to Bell. So not only do I not think he's going to be the punt returner, I'm not sure he's going to be on the team.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that my opinion is they're going to take Conley over Bell. I would take Conley over Bell, but I guess we'll have to see what happens. It's going to be, I think this training camp is going to be really intriguing.
Nick Bosa will barely have double-digit sacks, according to Mike Clay. Mike Clay's got him at 10 sacks, and he has Leonard Floyd at 7.5. He projects the Niners will only have 43 sacks on the season as a team, and they had 48 last year. That's scary. If that actually happens, that scares me. But why I don't think Bosa started out slow last year because he wasn't at camp. He even said by himself that it affected him, and that obviously affected his numbers. I think Bosa is going to get his numbers. I think Bosa is going to get his sacks. It's the rest of the defensive line that worries me. Now, Leonard Floyd will probably just play on passing downs. I think you're going to see Gross Matos in there on base downs on the edge in the Gross Matos, so kick inside on passing downs. But I'm not, with Floyd, he's getting older. I still think he's got some gas left in the tank, but I've talked about it numerous times on the show. I'm worried about the defensive line. I think Hargrave is maybe declining. He looked like he was last year. Malik Collins is a big pickup. How he does is going to really have a lot to do with the fortunes of the Niners defensive line. I like Floyd. How much does he have left in the tank? Is Gross Matos worth it? Some of these other guys, I'm not sure. So I think Bosa is going to get his numbers. It's everybody else. I'm kind of like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, he has Floyd at about, I think, 3 sacks less than he had last season. And Bosa with a half a sack less than he had a year ago. So I don't think Bosa is going to go down in sacks. I think he's going to go up. Is Floyd going to have 3 less than he had last year? I don't know about that, but I don't know. I do a weekly podcast called The Red and Bold Show. I do it with Anthony Robertson, 49ers cutback. And he's pretty high on Malik Collins. He thinks that he's going to be, because last year he was just as productive as Eric Armstead, and he didn't miss as many games. So he thinks that Collins is going to be a good pickup for the 49ers. And Anthony's one of those guys that breaks down the tape and really knows his stuff. And so I'm kind of putting my trust in him that he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, you're right. If they only have 43 sacks on the season, it could be a long season for the defense. Thankfully, the secondary is much better. If this was the secondary of a few years ago, 43 sacks would be really, really bad.
Be scary.
Yeah.
I think with the defensive line, I like Collins too. I really do. I think he's a good fit for the Niners. He attacks. I think he's going to have a nice season. But someone like Eric Armstead, I know fans get frustrated with him because he gets hurt. But when you win the amount of playoff games that this team has had, and I know they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, but it's still really hard to win in the playoffs. That's the Cowboys. That's those Packers teams. It's hard to win these games. And the Niners have been able to win a lot of them because of guys like Eric Armstead, who, when January comes, he plays his best football. So I've heard that a lot too, where it's like, oh, well, Collins, statistically, all that's great. I want to know when the lights are the brightest, is he going to play like Armstead did in the Super Bowl? That to me are the things that you can't replace. And a lot of people, I've heard it numerous places. Oh, they, same production. I think Armstead's a special dude when the lights are the brightest. I think he's proved it over and over and over again. He's not a statistical guy. Other than 2019, he's not somebody who's going to get 8 to 10 sacks. But the impact he makes, if you watch the games, what he does in the run game, in the interior, pushing the pocket, I think they're really going to miss him. And maybe Collins will step up in the playoffs, but that just remains to be seen to me.
Yeah, I like Armstead a lot. I think he's going to be missed. Another one that some people are high on is Jordan Elliott. I've heard Larry Krueger talk about him a lot, that he's high on Elliott. He thinks that he's going to come in and help that run game, that run defense, where, last year toward the end of the season and then in the postseason, we saw that the run defense wasn't quite the same that they had been earlier in the season and in the previous season. So hopefully Elliott, I don't think Malik Collins is really a run stopper. So I don't know that he's going to bring a lot to that, but for sure, Jordan Elliott could help.
I hope so. I'm not going to sit here and say that I watched all this Jordan Elliott tape and all these Jordan Elliott games. When I was watching the Browns, I had my eyes on Jordan Elliott. I didn't. I just had to kind of go to school when the Niners got him. Yeah. And from what I've read is he's all over the place in the run game. Like, he'll show out and then he disappears. So I'm a little bit nervous with all that.
Yeah. I don't like hearing that for sure.
Yeah. It's, we'll see what Niners have. Defensive line wasn't good last year, but typically it is. We'll see what happens there. But I am a little bit nervous. But what makes me more nervous than that is if Dre Greenlaw doesn't see the field. Now, Mike Clay has him playing 509 snaps. So what is that? Maybe like half the year? Is that what he's saying? He comes back maybe halfway through the year?
Well, last year he played 848. So 509 is more than half of the snaps that he took last year. So that's not bad. I mean, he has him at 73 tackles. I think last year he had 73 solo tackles. He had 120 total tackles last year. So obviously he's going to not have the season he had a year ago, but hopefully he will be healthy and come back at some point. I just think that we don't know. I mean, an Achilles tear in the Super Bowl, that's not an easy injury for a linebacker to return from. I reached out to somebody, I don't even remember when this was, but I reached out to somebody who's an orthopedic surgeon and asked, hey, what do you think about for an NFL linebacker to come back from an Achilles tear in February? And what I was told was November if he comes back. And so what I was told was that NFL linebackers, how did he put it? Have a pretty high rate of coming back, which suggested some don't. And so that kind of scared me because I think that Greenlaw is really important to this defense. Not that he gets Devondre Campbell, but I don't even know if Devondre Campbell, he's probably going to be the starter next to Fred Warner early in the season. But I wouldn't be surprised if D. Winters or somebody else takes that position from him, because I just don't think that he's been that great. But Greenlaw, they've got to get him back at some point.
Greenlaw is just one of those guys you can't replace to me. And the Niners have two linebackers like that. It changes the game. Two guys who can go sideline to sideline and cover.
Yeah.
And you saw when he left the Super Bowl last year, what happened. It made a huge difference. Yeah. And if they don't have him for a long period of time yet, that's really scary, really scary. Yeah. And I don't know that they can win without him, to be honest with you. Again, we saw what happened when he wasn't there. They're going to still be a good team without him. I don't mean win and they're not going to go 7-10. I'm not saying that. I just mean win the whole thing without him. I think you need someone, he changes the game. He's a difference maker. You just don't replace those guys. So if he comes back in November, I'm okay with that. If he can be healthy towards the end of the season, right? I'll take 6 games in the regular season because I think the Niners will win games without him. But when you get into the playoffs, you need him. So if he can come back close to healthy in the postseason, I'll take that. I'll take him coming back in November if that's what we get.
Yeah, and if he comes back in November and plays 500 snaps, that's pretty good for the last 2 months of the season, I would think. And 73 tackles is nothing to laugh at, because that's pretty productive for a guy that's on the field for 2 months. But again, we're going to have to see, is Talanoa Hufanga going to be ready week 1 like he says he will be? If he's not, who's going to play in his place? And for Greenlaw, is it going to be Devondre Campbell? Is it going to be D. Winters? Is it going to be Jalen Graham? Who knows? But that's one of the reasons why I think that this training camp is going to be so intriguing, is that there are some spots that are going to be challenged for, and it's going to be fun to watch.
So the Ambry Thomas projection is what I was alluding to earlier, where I don't think he quite knows everything about the 49ers. Yeah. So he has Ambry Thomas playing 534 snaps. Unless there are major injuries, I don't think it's happening. I don't know if he's going to be on the team, dude. I don't even think he's going to be on the team.
I agree.
So he has Isaac Yiadom playing 160. And this is the way I see the Niners secondary. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, Mark. You're going to have Demo and Ward in your base downs. And then in your passing downs, I think Yiadom's going to play on the outside. And Demo's Lenore's going to go inside, and then Ward will play his position. They'll work Renardo Green in. And I think that's your top 4 corners. You have Rock Ya-Sin there. You have Darrell Ludo Jr. You have Samuel Womack, who's a good special teams player. I think all those guys are on the team over Ambry Thomas. I think Ambry Thomas's time with the Niners. And listen, he started some big games for them. Not in the business of knocking him by the stretch of the imagination. I just think when you have these other guys, it's an uphill battle for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year, because Anthony Robertson and I, not only do we do this weekly thing, but he was with PSF last year as well. So we did the games together. And early in the year, I am just crushing Ambry Thomas. Every time I see him, I think that he's holding or he's getting called for a hold, or he's letting somebody make a big play. And then he had that stretch of a couple of games in the middle of the season where, holy cow, he's playing great. And then he kind of reverted back to his old self. And so every year I feel like there's somebody that I'm picking on. And last year it was Ambry Thomas. Who knows who it's going to be this year? I hope it's not Ambry Thomas because I don't want to see him playing very much. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that Mike Clay watches too many 49ers games because I don't know why he would think that Ambry Thomas is going to play more than Renardo Green, Isaac Yadom, Rock Ya-Sin, Darrell Luter Jr., or Samuel Womack. Luter and Womack weren't even listed. So when he listed his snaps and those things, Luter and Womack weren't even on the list. So I don't know where he's getting this information about Ambry Thomas.
Yeah, and just with the Yadom, I mean, if you've been paying any attention, it seems like the Niners really like him. Seems like they feel like he's a guy with the arrow pointed up. I think it's his job to lose coming in and playing on the outside of the passing downs. I really do. I know it's just a 1-year deal, but they have so many questions in the secondary anyway. Pretty much everybody's a free agent out of the corners after this season. So
true.
But yeah, I really do like Yadom.
Call from mom. Answer it. Call silenced.
Instacart knows nothing gets between you and the game. That's why they make ordering from your couch easy. Stock up today and get all your groceries for the week delivered in as fast as 30 minutes without missing a minute of the game.
You have 47 new voicemails.
Download the app to get free delivery on your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Okay, you can do this.
I know. Carvana makes it so convenient to sell your car. It's just hard to let go. My car and I have been through so much together.
But look, you already have a great offer from Carvana. That was fast.
Well, I know my license plate and VIN by heart, and those questions were easy.
You're almost there. Now to just accept the offer and schedule a pickup or drop-off.
How'd you do it? How are you so strong in letting go of your car?
Well, I already made up my mind, and Carvana's so easy.
Yeah, true. And sold.
Go to Carvana.com to sell your car the convenient way.
Well, we got a minute. I'm going to buy that truck I've been wanting.
Wait, don't you need, weeks to shop for a car?
I don't. Carvana makes it super convenient to find exactly what I want.
Hold up. You're buying a car on your phone? Isn't that more of a laptop thing?
You can shop wherever you want.
I like to do my research, read reviews, compare models. Plus, Carvana has thousands of options. How'd you decide on that truck?
Because I like it.
Oh, that is a great reason.
Go to Carvana.com to sell your car the convenient way.
How this secondary goes, because I feel like right now it really might be the strong point of the defense. Not the safeties, I'm a little worried there, but the corners might be the strong point of this defense. And it's going to go a long way how they play into the Niners win total. And Mike Clay has them at 12.4, which I think is fair. But here's something I want to throw out at you and just tell me what you think. Niners are going to be good this year. They are. And everybody looks at their roster and is like, yeah, this team is loaded. I agree. They are. Do we have to worry about at any point 60 games in the last 3 years, injuries and regression starting to happen? Do you think it can happen this year? Am I crazy? Is it possible? Is it still going to be a really good team? What do you think there?
I am definitely concerned about that. I think you're a Yankees fan. Is that right? Do I remember seeing that?
I'm a Yankees fan. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's what I was thought, because I'm a lifelong fan of the Houston Astros. I lived in Houston when I was a kid, and so that's back in the Astrodome days when I first started going and watching baseball. Mm-hmm. And so you look at this run that the Astros have been on since 2017. I mean, it really started a couple of years before that when they first started getting into the playoffs. But this run of World Series or ALCS every year, this season has seemed to catch up, seems to have caught up to them, because they have, gosh, I don't even know, 9 starting pitchers have been on the injured list. Mm-hmm. And so I worry about the same thing with the 49ers. When you advance as far as they're advancing year after year, it does catch up on you. We saw that with the Harbaugh teams. We didn't see it as much in the 80s and 90s when they were at their best. And I'm not really sure why we didn't see it as much back then. but we definitely saw it with the Harbaugh teams in 2014 when they dealt with a lot of injuries. And that is a concern that we could start seeing that for sure.
Yeah, as age gets up there and just, sometimes people just fall off a cliff and you don't see it happening. It happens a lot, especially with the receiver position. Guys like a Julio Jones is great, and then he's just not. That stuff happens. I don't think that they're there yet, but I don't think they're far off from that. Some guys starting to decline a little bit. And that's my only real worry with them this year, because they're loaded again. I mean, look, they're loaded again. Is the safety position going to be okay? Are the guys they brought in, because they revamped the defensive line? So are those guys going to come in and do enough to, because the defensive line wasn't good last year, so they needed to revamp it. But are they going to come in and do enough to push the defense up to the top of the NFL again? And I think a lot of people just look at the 49ers, like, yeah, they have a great defense. Well, there's different guys this year. Greenlaw is not there. Hufanga's coming off an ACL. There's things that they have to prove. Offensively, as long as the offensive line holds up, I still think they're still going to score a ton of points, obviously, as long as people stay healthy. But can that defense hold up? Our team's going to run on them. If teams are possessing the ball 35 minutes a game and the Niners aren't having a lot of possessions, that sort of thing. And some of these teams that we've seen in the NFC, Green Bay, up and coming, gave them all they could handle. Detroit should have beat them. Really, if Dan Campbell doesn't do those fourth down calls and Josh Reynolds can catch, there are a million things that happen that the Lions should have beat the 49ers. And then are the Eagles better? Are the Cowboys finally going to pull their head out of their ass? Are the Falcons going to there's a lot of teams. The Rams, I can go on and on.
Right. Yeah, the Rams, that's who I was going to mention. That they concerned me a little bit. Their offense was really tough to stop. What was it, week 2? The 49ers had all they could handle with stopping that Rams offense. That was without Cooper Kupp. So I think the Rams are going to be a much better team. It's going to be interesting to see what the Seahawks do. I think the Cardinals are getting better. I don't think that they're going to challenge yet. I mean, they could upset the 49ers once, but yeah, I think, with 12, the interesting thing for me is that Clay has the 49ers offense ranked 5th overall. He has the defense listed 4th overall. The team's overall ranking set at number 2. And then, like I said, he had them at 12.4 projected wins, which is ranked 1st in the NFL. So he has them as a team being really good. But he did have some key players like Bosa taking a step back. So, I don't know how he came to all of that, but hopefully he's right on that and wrong on the Bosa thing. But if they have 12 wins and they're ranked 1st in the NFL, then they're going to have home field advantage again, and that bodes well for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, they should still be, barring injury or something ridiculous happening, they should still be right there with the top teams in the NFC. To me, it's just a matter of, we know they're going to be in the playoffs. Can they keep having this run? Can they stay healthy enough to win these playoff games and eventually win a Super Bowl at some point soon?
Yeah, that needs to happen sometime soon.
Oh, this poor fan base. We're a little bit older, so we've seen. I was tail end of Joe Montana, and I remember 1994 very well. I was in high school, but a lot of these poor fans, they've just been kicked in the gut over and over and over again. It's to come so close. I just, all the people that you talk to as you do this, and whether it's social media or listen to the show or whatever, like I want it for them to really, really badly. I did a whole show about it before the Super Bowl, like how much the Niners have been through, and like how much Niner fans have been through, and it just doesn't let up, man. It just doesn't let up.
But, at the same time, I feel like we've been really blessed. We've been really fortunate, because I go back to a lot of times people ask me how I became a 49ers fan, because I don't live in the Bay Area, didn't grow up there. And so I said that I lived in Houston. And this was during the Love You Blue era, when Earl Campbell was the star running back for the Houston Oilers. And so that was my team. And then my family moved away from Houston, and the Oilers traded Earl Campbell to the Saints, which I thought this was the Saints that the fans wore the bags over their heads. And so I thought, what a horrible thing to do to Earl. And by that time he was pretty shot, because the Oilers ran him into the ground. So I decided in January of 82, whoever wins the Super Bowl, I'm like in the I think I was in the 5th grade. And so I decided whoever wins the Super Bowl is going to be my new team. Thankfully, the 49ers won, or I would have grown up a Bengals fan, and that would have been so much worse. So I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, you made a good decision, and all these years later, you stuck with them. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, tell everybody where they can find you, man.
You can find me anywhere at 49ers Camelot every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I do the Red and Bold show with Anthony Robertson. Actually, tomorrow at 1:30 Pacific, we're going to go live with Matt Mayoko. So we're excited about that. That's going to be fun. So come check that out. Matt's always great. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
And you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. Please subscribe, and please subscribe to YouTube. Still a little bit new for us there, but we're going to have that going like crazy this season. A lot of guests on YouTube this year. We have a lot of cool people on that, we'll stream live and have for you to look at after. So please subscribe to both of those. Mark, thanks for the time, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
1, 2, 3. Hey!
2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.
All-star closer Kenley Jansen, we have a question.
What's the best podcast of all time? Baseball isn't boring, baby.
I'm Rob Bradford, and every single day I'm sitting down with the biggest names to show you this great game is the greatest game. It's my podcast. It's my passion. It's a cause I started more than 2 years ago and is now the most prolific national daily baseball pod there is. Another fact, so jump aboard the BIB Express. Follow and listen to Baseball Isn't Boring, presented by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.